welcome to this edition of the Agronomy Tip of the Week. I'm Dave Hoy, technical team agronomist for Team 18 in Northeast Iowa. This week I'll be talking about soybean and soybean planting decisions. There's a lot of people with questions on should they shorten up their maturities, should they even swap out the soybeans they have in the shed. Let's dive a little deeper and figure out just exactly what's going on behind the scenes and why we should or shouldn't be making those decisions. So we all know it's important to get soybeans planted early. But what if Mother Nature really didn't help us out this year? I know some people were able to get a few beans in early, but most of us, we're just trying to get the corn in and then get the beans in. So soybeans really are a photosensitive plant, which means as soon as we get a certain amount of daylight, that's when they trigger to start flowering. We also know that soybeans require a lot of sunshine to convert that photosynthesis into pods and then beans. So the beans you have in the shop, in the back of the barn, are those still good to plant? More than likely they are. In a recent study, Iowa State did a 5-year research on 7 different research farms, and they planted a whole litany of soybeans. Some they planted early, and some they planted 40 days later, some they planted 60 days later. What they found is the longer maturing soybeans actually only reached physiological maturity about 7 to 10 days apart from each other. Now granted, these were planted 40 and 60 days apart and reached maturity within 7 to 10 days. Earlier maturing varieties were actually a tighter window. Planted 40 and 60 days apart, they reached physiological maturity within 3 to 5 days of each other. So, do we really need to start changing our maturities on soybeans? The answer, probably not. So maybe a more important discussion is, when I get into later planting, what should my population be? Because since we're not going to have maybe as big a plant as we could have had we planted early, maybe we need more plants out there. In a recent study from the University of Wisconsin, they showed that as you get later and later in the season, you need to increase your population. Their magic number was anything after May 20th, you need to start increasing your population. I say if you've got a target of the last kind of day when you can expect 100% of your yield, whatever day that is, as you get past that, for every 10 days you're past, I think you should probably up your soybean population by 10,000. So if we get into a June time frame, you might be planting 20, even 30,000 more beans out there just to get enough foliage, to get enough flowers, to lead to pods, to lead to beans. That's one way we can offset the late planting. Now, is that going to totally offset and get us back to 100% yield? No, it won't. But it'll get us from 60% of our expected yield, maybe up to 70, maybe even in some instances, up to 80% of what our yield could be. So with today's LG soybeans, they're really designed to fit the field that you plant them in. And that's probably more important than maybe going to some unknown soybean just because it's a little earlier or a little later to try and judge when that frost is going to be. Use tools like Advantage Acre to go out and put in a timeline and see when is my expected frost-free date. As always, contact your local agronomist if you have any questions. Thanks for watching this week's Agronomy Tip of the Week, and we'll see you next trip.